the U.S. has championed two causes, you can say two countries that are clear expressions of ethnosupremacism. That's supposed to be almost by definition what we're not about, what we're opposed to, right? After the end of the Second World War, I said never again. It's just like the expansionist, ethno-supremacist power. That's the main threat to world peace. And now the two countries that we've decided to champion really and to support with all our might are precisely that. They're ethno-supremacist. That's really what they are. And so what do we actually stand for? Again, with I think outside of the U.S., the Western world. People looking in see this and just say, these people are totally phony. They used to talk about human rights and I actually listened to them, because I think at one point we actually did stand for something, back, before the fall of the Soviet Union. It was imperfect and, there were gray areas, but by and large, we were the free world and we did stand for a certain, we had a certain vision of what was right and good. Now, you can point to all kinds of exceptions, murderous regimes that we supported. But I think by and large it was true. It's just now I don't think anybody can believe it, that we actually, we mouth these words. We talk about, equality and protection of minorities and whatever. But now just think about it. The country that we overthrew was like one of the only countries in the Middle East where religious minorities were protected. And you could say the same was true of Iraq. We actually targeted those countries. Now, we'd have differences about, their authoritarian freedom of speech and assembly is restricted there. So you can have differences. But the fact is, but that's equally true of Saudi Arabia and the Gulf monarchies and whatever. And they don't respect, minority rights. But the ones that did are the ones that we attacked. And then the countries that we champion are these ethno-supremacist countries. I mean, it goes beyond a double standard. I mean, it's just that what have we actually become? What do we actually stand for? We now seem to stand for the opposite of what we said we once stood for. We support the ethno-supremacists. We cover up for them. We pretend that we're about democracy. We can go also. We mentioned last time the obvious, let's see, all the hypocrisy and the double standards involved in elections that take place in Eastern Europe or Georgia or whatever. It's clear we pretend that we're about democracy, but just looking at it, like right now in Romania, of course, we annulled the election, or they did, the Romanian government, when the wrong person won. And now apparently they're arresting, leaders, various supporters of the movement, the political party that was going to win. And in Moldova, the government is reviewing all the judges and simply firing the ones that tend to be friendly to Russia. None of this is democratic by any means. Just like, all the things that we're supposed to stand for, we've become the opposite. And it just seems like at some point, we still pretend to be what we once were. We still use that language, but it has nothing to do with the reality. And you wonder at some point, just sort of like in Israel, the mask will fall and we won't even talk about it anymore. It's just, we support these ethno-supremacists. That's what we're all about. Why? It doesn't make any sense, but that's what we're seeing. That's the reality.
I think it's because we're completely consumed with destroying Russia, with being the global hegemon. So if we have to side with ethno-supremacists, as long as they're attacking, a rival power in our mind, then right. So be it. We have to do it. That's the great battle over time. And I think that's just the mindset that America has.
Yeah, well, that's true. But eventually you start to become the enemy of everything that you said you stood for because of that.
We already are. We already are.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Not eventually. You're correct. We already are. And then in the case of, the Zionist Israel, well, no matter what, we got to support them. I was thinking, too, the extraordinary fact that Al-Qaeda now has conquered and, taken over a country. This all began, the war on terror was about fighting Al-Qaeda. And he just jumped to the future and said, okay, Al-Qaeda is actually taking over a whole country and we're cool with it. What's going on? What has happened? This is just beyond, and again, there's another ethno-supremacist power that we use because they serve our purposes.
That's true. It's, the 9/11, this greatest attack on the United States, it's Al-Qaeda. And now we're working with them. How can we have...
Yeah, well, and it's not the first time we worked with them, over the last 20 years.
Are survivors of the 9/11 attacks or family members of people that lost loved ones, are they aware that the U.S. government is now supporting the regime, the organization that attacked our country, that brought down the
I'm sure
Twin Towers?
at least a few of them are. I mean, it generally doesn't make it into the narrative, but it has. It's not like this has been completely covered up within U.S. I'll look at New York Times, their Daily Digest or whatever, and they actually have admitted, the Al-Qaeda connections to the HTS. I think you don't, like if you're watching Fox News, you probably would never know it now. But, that's what Fox News was all about at one point, was fighting Al-Qaeda.
Right.
But look where we are. It's just that we are now the reverse of everything, the opposite of everything we claim to be. And we're again, all our enemies have become our friends. And
right. But I mean, it seems like the connection between Israel and Al-Qaeda goes back quite a ways, because you said they were funding Al-Nusra and actually treating wounded Al-Nusra soldiers or the Syrian Civil War.
Yeah, providing them with logistical support. And, that was back, 2012, around that time. So,
right, and Al-Nusra is just the second iteration of Al-Qaeda.
Right.
Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra.
Yeah, Al-Nusra is basically... with just Al-Qaeda in Syria, and then HTS was just a rebranding. Same people, Al-Julan.
Right. Do you know how far back that this connection goes, where Israel was working with Al-Qaeda? Do you know? Probably nobody knows.
It's certainly possible it goes farther back. Probably does, but in the
case of the
pre-9/11, I don't think so. Well, yeah, we can get into that.
The dancing Israelis?
Yeah.
Do you want to go there?
Well, you can say, they just say, there is clear evidence that the Israelis knew what was going to happen. I don't think they were directing it or anything, but they knew what was going to happen. They understood it was actually to their advantage.
You're talking about 9/11?
9/11, exactly.
So you think they knew?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. There's the dancing Israelis. That's actually... made it into Fox News. Later they deleted it, but it was on their website for several days, that these Israelis, they clearly were connected to the Mossad, and they were overjoyed. They knew what was going to happen. They saw it and they just celebrated. And because I think they understood that this was kind of like, this is a disaster for the U.S., but it brings the U.S. in on our side, and we can get them to go after our perceived enemies, namely Iraq. Yeah, and then, Iran and Syria were also on the list. Now they got Syria. And, in the Middle East, it's just Lebanon, and I don't think, Lebanon has been greatly weakened already, and Iran.
Oh, man, it's so crazy. If that's really true, if they knew about 9/11, and there's also the USS Liberty incident, the Levant affair, and then everybody here is just like, America, Israel's our greatest ally. Yeah. It's like, what? This is crazy. This is so crazy.
Yeah, that sometimes, like, the Israelis themselves think it's kind of crazy. There is a tape of Netanyahu, I think better than 20 years ago, talking to some supporters. I think it may have been in one of those illegal settlements, and saying, he says, well, I can get the U.S. to do whatever I want them to do. He's just bragging. He says it's just crazy, It's